It's usually the first question a potential client asks me. Am I even qualified to teach internationally? The short answer is maybe. There are a couple of non-negotiable qualifications that most international schools, the reputable and accredited ones, will require. But there are also some things you can start working on today to amp up your qualifications and stand out as a strong, attractive candidate. Hi, I'm Christina. I'm an elementary school teacher from the USA, and I have 10 years of international experience. I've moved abroad 6 times, worked in 4 top-ranked international schools, and worked also in 3 different global regions. But now my mission with Educators at the Cafe is to support other educators who also want to have the experience of living and teaching abroad. You're in the right place if you are a specialist teacher, early childhood, elementary, middle school, high school, or an administrator. And I think my information will be most valuable to you if you're already a licensed educator working in a full-time role. If you are seeking information about teaching English abroad, I would love to direct your attention to this wonderful channel because that is not my specialty. I taught in English, I did not teach English as a language. Okay, the meat and potatoes. You need work experience. Most international schools will require 2 years of full-time teaching experience in the same role that you're applying for. Meaning, if you're an elementary art teacher, they want to see at least 2 years of working as a full-time elementary art teacher before you apply. Next, a bachelor's degree. Having a master's degree is great and definitely sets you apart as a more attractive candidate, but is not required. And your bachelor's degree does not have to be in education, but you should be able to discuss how you went from earning your bachelor's degree to becoming interested in education. The schools definitely need to see that you have completed coursework at a higher education level. Also, if you are a specialist or work within high school, of course your degree might need to have some endorsements to show that you can also teach, which leads me to the next one, which is a teaching license. Every country is slightly different in how they certify their teachers, but essentially if you are legally allowed to teach in your home country right now, that's a good sign that you'll be able to transfer that skill to work in a new country. If you are at all unsure, I highly suggest contacting your university or whichever agency within your country certifies teachers to see where you land. Next is legally being allowed to work in that country, zone, or region. This is again a government point, but it usually refers to passports and immigration rules. Essentially, find out if you are legally allowed to work in that zone. And finally, on my list of non-negotiable qualifications is a clean background check. This is a fairly obvious one, and of course, schools want to make sure that whoever they're bringing into the country is going to work safely with their students and be part of their community. You probably noticed that I didn't mention having a certain passport, being a certain nationality, or having certain native speaker proficiency. That is because these are not official qualifications to become an international educator. These are, however, usually government regulations that guide the rules that the schools have to follow about issuing a work visa to a foreign candidate. Meaning that some countries have stipulations about the number of work visas or the types of work visas that can be issued, and the reason for this is to protect their local population and their local economy. Meaning that if a local teacher could be hired to do the job, the government would rather the school do that instead of bringing in a foreign hire. This is a quote from an international school. Normally, we prefer a minimum of 2 years of professional experience and, all else being equal, an advanced degree. Both of these might be waived, however, when interviews, recommendations, or both indicate an unusually strong, though inexperienced, candidate. And that leads to the next part of this video, which you might notice looks a little different because most of my equipment died and I forgot to turn on my beautiful Rio de Janeiro lamp. We are jumping into the next part, which is all about how you can amp up your qualifications today. The first thing you can do is gather evidence of adaptability. A school wants to see this because if they're going to bring you all the way across the world into a new location, far away from everything you know and love, they want to make sure you're going to be okay. So you might have evidence that you've done a study abroad program, or you moved a lot when you were a child, or you went to many different universities and colleges, or perhaps you're part of different social clubs and organizations. I would avoid highlighting how you experienced the pandemic because it's not an experience you chose to go through, and instead think about moments in your life when you've had to be very adaptable and you've been successful. And if right now I sparked an idea I would grab a Google Doc and scribble down all the evidence you currently have about your adaptability and save it under the title Interview Prep, because an interviewer might ask you, how do you know that you are adaptable? How would you adapt to this new environment if we were to hire you? The next thing to gather is evidence of achievement. And before you start backing away thinking about GPAs and numbers, I'm talking about any situation where you strove towards a goal and you were successful. This might be that you led a presentation at work, you earned a certain certification, maybe you have received a certain accolade or an honor in your current job, and some people even point out training for a marathon. This is important for the school because they want to hire people who are driven, people who are going to commit, first of all, to the 2-year contract that they're offering you, but also who are going to promote the values and the vision of the school and drive it forward with them. The next thing that you can gather is evidence of global interest. This might be that study abroad experience, but maybe you also traveled extensively. Perhaps you have experience or interest in global languages, or you've invested time in learning about other cultures. Many international schools have a goal of developing their students to become global citizens, and they'll want to ensure that you have that same worldview mindset. The next point is strong references and recommendations. Right now, I would check through your LinkedIn and your Facebook to make sure that you are connected as a first-level connection with anyone you've previously worked with, especially leaders. This way, they can see what you are working on, and when a potential recruiter notices that you are connected well with someone you have put as a reference, that really speaks to your character and your role as a professional educator. If you feel comfortable, LinkedIn also has a space for endorsements on the bottom of your profile, and you can ask previous colleagues to write a quick blurb about you that speaks highly to your skills and your experience. The next thing you can start working on is your language experience. It is very unlikely that you will be teaching in the host country's language. As an international teacher, you will most likely be using English as the common language for instruction. However, knowing some pieces of the local language will only benefit you. Of course, there are many countries, so if you know that you are looking into a certain region of the world, for example, Latin America, perhaps learning some Spanish will point out to the recruiter at the international school that you are already willing to invest in yourself and you anticipate some of the challenges of this role and have taken actionable steps to help yourself to be more successful. The next is evidence that you have been a part of your community and that you have invested energy in the school. If you move abroad, your school is going to become an integral part of your life, and a recruiter wants to know that you are already comfortable attending community events and investing your time and energy in the school. The last thing I have on my list of qualifications you can work on right now is professional learning investment. Again, make sure that your leaders know what you are working on to become a better professional educator. Are you taking courses? Are you amping up some of your leadership skills? Are you learning something that's going to benefit your students directly? Anything that they can speak to in that recommendation is gold for you. Also, it's very likely to be a question that comes up in an interview. How do you invest in your professional development? So you'll already be able to point to the books you've read, the courses you've taken, the workshops you've led, and talks you've given, and be able to say, I'm already someone who invests a lot in growing professionally, and I'm just going to continue doing that when you hire me to come join your school. Here's another quote from an international school. Please note that we can only accept candidates who are certified to teach in the field for which they are applying. Work visas for country also require that teachers have at least 2 years of experience in the field for which they are applying. And now let's circle back to talking about the government, because the school is ultimately a client of the government. They have certain permits that allow them to operate in the host country, and they have to follow certain government rules. If you are ready to prepare to start teaching internationally next year, I'd love to support you. You can contact me to request guided support on how you can begin your journey at educatorsatthecafe.com. So if this is your dream, go make it your reality. Thank you for joining me today. Ciao for now.